Standing Simmer here today, coming at you with another speed build in The Sims 4. So guys, this speed build requires just a little bit of explanation here right at the beginning. First of all, this is a little different to any other type of build that I've had on my channel so far because it's the closest thing you could probably call a modern home. It has a ton of glass, which was the initial intention and inspiration for this build. And I actually initially began trying to make it a starter. We scrapped the idea pretty quickly, but just a heads up to kind of let you guys know what I was thinking as we go. So I was kind of bumming around on Pinterest the other day. No, it wasn't Pinterest. It was Twitter. Why did I say Pinterest? Anyways, so I was bumming around on Twitter the other day and I came across something that was talking about the Glass House Challenge by Simproved. It was another simmer, I think, who I can't even remember who it was right now, but she was talking about doing the Glass House Challenge by Simproved. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I looked it up and I actually found Simproved's original video for the Glass House Challenge, which was posted, I think it was a couple of years ago now, guys. I am not new to this trend. This has been a thing for a while, but you know, that's you know, kind of my, it's kind of my go-to. I tend to be a little late to these things, but in all fairness, I haven't been doing YouTube all that long anyway, so it has been around for a while, but to the best that I could tell, Simproved's video and the description of the video indicated that the only requirements for this challenge is that every exterior wall has to be a window. So as you can see, that is what has inspired me with the basic structure of this house. Going into it, I knew exactly what shape I wanted the house to take, which is kind of rare for me. Thankfully, these more minimalist homes, these minimalist modern homes, you could say, they're not very complicated as to their exterior most of the time. At least I wasn't about to make it too complicated because I'm not as familiar building with this style as I am perhaps with other types of styles like more family homes and things like that. I'm much more comfortable with family homes. But this was kind of fun because it gave me a chance to break out of my shell a little bit and to create something that I would have never come up with on my own. So like I said, I began this challenge with an idea that probably wasn't my brightest idea, which was that I was going to make this house into a starter home. I think I mentioned in one of my videos last week that I've really been hoping to kind of branch out and restrict myself budget-wise just to see what I can do. And so I was kind of going into this thinking, I'm going to try to, you know, shake it up a little bit and restrict myself with a budget. So I wanted to make this into a starter home. We are building on the 20 by 20 lot in Brindleton Bay because I thought that a glass house would afford gorgeous views of the sea. And so that's kind of my thought in placing it where I have it. And very quickly, like within just the first few minutes, I started to realize that a starter home budget was not going to turn this house into what I had imagined. So I was trying really hard at first, and as you can see, you know, we're using really cheap furniture. I'm trying to decide like what pieces I can get away with and you know, what I can leave in just to you know, kind of act as decoration and that sort of thing. And then after a few minutes, I realized, well, first of all, there weren't any lights in the build, and that was going to be a problem. So I eventually just scrapped that idea. I delete most of the original furniture, and I start to put in pieces that I think work a lot better with this build, which unfortunately does mean that this build ends up being a lot more expensive than I originally intended. To be honest with you, I think the final cost was just something over about 40K. So we effectively doubled the budget that I had initially had for myself going into it. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up going with this home. But I'm so much more happy with the results as it ends up at the end. Compared to what it was looking like it was going to look like when it was just going to be a starter home. So you can see now I'm still trying to figure out what sort of lighting I can put in. I'm kind of looking at it from the outside because I also wanted it to be minimally furnished because a glass house is literally going to show you everything that is inside the house. Like you can't hide any clutter. It kind of has to look aesthetically pleasing when you're looking at it from the outside as well. At least in my mind, that's kind of how this works. So several times in the video, you'll see that I kind of back up, get to the outside of the house and look inside as if you're walking up to the house from the front, and try to make sure that whatever I end up putting in still looks nice from the outside as much as it does in the inside. So what I'm doing here is this little kitchen area, which you saw earlier. I've kind of been messing with these half walls because I really don't like backing cabinets or refrigerators or stoves up to windows. And that was kind of an issue with this build, considering it's a glass house. You know, there are windows everywhere. Not only did I line the entire exterior as per the rules with windows, but I also put that little glass feature within the center of this house that you can see right there with a plant inside it. That, by the way, is one of my favorite plants from the Jungle Adventure game pack. It is such a gorgeous plant. It's kind of like this slight spiral climbing vine type item. And so I just placed a few of them within each other and raised each one up and changed the colors a little bit so that it looks like it's climbing up from within the center of the house. So essentially, I've made sure that there are glass walls everywhere you look in this house, and I really wanted to try to avoid backing furniture up against it too much if I could. And so that's why I wanted to use the glass walls. That's why I wanted to use the half walls in this build, so that I could make sure that it looked a little bit more realistic with how I was placing the furniture. Which, to be honest, I don't exactly know how realistic a house like this would be. To be honest with you, I think that it wouldn't afford very much privacy. You could really enjoy the views, like I said, especially if you were somewhere near the ocean or something like that. But yeah, you're really not going to be able to hide much inside this house. I did go ahead and try to stick with that theme by not placing any curtains in this house, which, like I said, isn't the most realistic. I feel like even if someone did live in a house like this and just was completely surrounded by glass and views of the outside, they would still have curtains so that you could put a little bit of privacy in there, especially in like your bathroom or something like that. But alas, there are no curtains in this build, just because I thought it's a Sims, and thankfully they're not really worried about the privacy from the exterior to the interior of a house as much as we would be if it was our house. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing there. Just dividing up this main area of the home into, it ends up being a kitchen, a little dining room, a sitting area with like a television and such, and then the area that we're working on right now, which is the computer and the desk area. Again, I stayed pretty minimal with the furniture. There isn't a ton of clutter, just enough to kind of make it look like a Sim might actually live here, but not a whole bunch, not as much as I'd like to put it in like my family homes and things like that. And then over in the last corner, which I don't think we get to right now, but we do eventually later on, I took a little bookcase and another chair, just so that you can have an additional way to build skills and things with your Sim, or increase enjoyment and things like that. So on over to this little bedroom area. I didn't even completely close the bathroom off, which is why this kind of works being a house that could fit really only one Sim, maybe two, but of course they'd have to be a couple, because then, your Sim isn't constantly embarrassed by the fact that the bathroom is open to the rest of the home. So that shouldn't cause any issues, at least I hope it doesn't in this house. As per usual with my smaller or more questionable builds, it is player tested. Your Sims will be able to access just about whatever they need to in the house and get around just fine. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is the Glass House Challenge, more or less, from Simproved, and I will, of course, link her video and her channel in general down below in the description, because she's got some amazing stuff on her channel, guys. I've been following her for several months now, and she is just an inspirational builder. Like, she does some really, really cool stuff. So if you would happen to not be following her already, I highly recommend that you do so, because she is one of my go-tos when it comes to getting build inspiration and things like that. And she really puts together some very, very cool stuff. Like things I would never, ever even think of before, such as one of her more recent builds at the date of this recording is she put out a surfer style school bus, and she sized up one of those large like in-game toy cars and then built a house on the end of it. And it was just so cute and just very nice to look at. Like, she's so creative with what she puts together in her builds, and it's always impressive to me what she comes up with. So yeah, guys, definitely go check out her channel. She goes by Fry. She's awesome. So yeah, definitely check it out. And yeah, like I said, this is her challenge. So we have moved from the interior to the exterior, and I'm putting in a little bit of landscaping. Again, I wanted to keep it minimal so there isn't a whole bunch of ground coverage or anything like that. There's not a whole bunch going on as far as landscaping goes. I did want to make sure to put in some jungle adventure plants because I think that fits well in kind of like a beach area, but all like, you know, for the tropical aspect of it. But it would also fit really well, I think, in Oasis Springs. So Oasis Springs, if I had thought about it prior to putting this in Brittleton Bay, I might have considered building it in Oasis Springs. But again, I really wanted the beach view with this one. So yeah, that's why we ended up putting it here. So like I said, I think it turned out really, really well. Of course, I'm mentioning this really, really late, as I do with most of my builds, guys, but it is available on the gallery. I uploaded it as soon as I built it, which is usually what I tend to do when it comes to my builds. So this is available on my gallery, which my ID is Standing Simmer, and it's also under the hashtag Standing Simmer as well. I forget exactly what I called it, but it's something like Modern Glass House, or perhaps just Glass House. It wasn't until I started putting together the thumbnail and such that I decided to call it the Minimalist Glass House, because I wanted to kind of explain why there wasn't as much clutter in this build as in some of my other ones. So this video is actually split up into a couple of different like building sessions, so to speak. So I built the initial house and furnish it and all that good stuff, and then did a little bit of the landscaping, but then came back into it later on because I decided I wanted to add a little bit more dimension to the outside by adding just a hair of a foundation, a little front porch area, and a little bit more landscaping. Like, so I added a few more, you know, jungle adventure plants because I like the way that they look. And then eventually here in a second, I'll end up putting in a fountain in the back, which really works nicely with the fact that this is such a wide open build and has such good views of the outside, because you can see it like right from the outside, no problem. So I just added these couple little things toward the end, which I thought turned out really, really nicely. Like I said, this is kind of new to me. Like, I've never really built anything like this. You guys will have to let me know what you think of my brief attempt at a modern build looks like. It's really my goal to build more things like this in the future, but I'm not as comfortable with a modern style as I am with other styles. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research and like get more inspiration and such from a few other simmers before I really feel comfortable tackling a full-blown like modern build. So all right, guys, looks like we are on to the screenshots. So thank you for tuning in today for this really nice little short and sweet build. It didn't take me too long to put together, but I really like the way that it turned out. So I hope you guys liked it too. Like I said, this is on the gallery, and yeah, guys, this is a nice little, you know, quick Tuesday build for you. So I hope you're having the best of days, and I will see you very soon. Bye.